Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. The blade of the long sword was cold against the skin of my neck, freezing the very breath in my throat. "Give me one reason," the man whispered, his voice a low rumble of thunder wrapped in velvet. "Why I shouldn't paint this floor with your insignificant blood." This was it. The moment I was destined to die. According to the script of The Fall of the Empire, Julian Thorne, me, was merely the nervous, incompetent secretary to the Grand Duke, written into the narrative solely to demonstrate the villain's ruthless volatility in Chapter 3. I was a disposable plot device, a footnote in a tragedy. But looking up into the eyes of Grand Duke Cassian Vane, eyes the color of fractured amethysts burning with a chaotic, magical madness, I didn't feel the urge to beg for my life as the original Julian would have. I felt a surge of adrenaline, a defiance born of knowing the future he was blindly marching toward. I knew the pain rotting him from the inside out, the curse of the dragon's blood that made his mana boil like acid in his veins. I knew that in 3 years, this beautiful, broken monster would burn the capital to ash because no one, not even the heroine, ever thought to ask him if he was hurting. I raised my chin, pressing my throat deliberately against the sharp steel until a thin bead of crimson welled up, shocking the madness in his gaze into a flicker of clarity. "Because, Your Grace," I said, my voice steady despite the trembling of my knees. "If you kill me, there will be no one left to brew the tea that stops the screaming in your head." The silence that followed stretched like a taut wire, vibrating with the threat of violence. Cassian Vane, the mad dog of the Empire, the man feared by emperors and gods alike, tilted his head. The movement was predatory, avian, and terrifyingly graceful. Slowly, agonizingly, he lowered the sword. "You claim to hear it too?" he asked, the weapon clattering onto the marble floor, a sound that echoed through the cavernous, lonely expanse of his ducal office. "The screaming? I don't hear it," I admitted, stepping back and smoothing the wrinkles of my uniform, trying to embody the perfect, invisible aid. "But I see what it does to you. The tremors in your hands when the moon is full. The way you stare at the fireplace as if you wish to walk into it." I walked past him, ignoring every survival instinct screaming at me to run, and moved toward the tea service on the side table. My hands shook as I reached for the dried herbs I had spent weeks gathering, silverleaf and moonshade, a combination mentioned only in the obscure footnotes of the novel's lore, a remedy the original female lead wouldn't discover for another 40 chapters. I wasn't the female lead. I wasn't the hero. I was Julian. Just Julian. But I refused to be a corpse. The sound of heavy boots followed me. I could feel his heat, a radiating aura of raw, unstable power that made the air taste like ozone. He loomed over me, a shadow casting the world into darkness. "You are a strange little thing," Cassian murmured, his breath ghosting over the shell of my ear. "Insignificant. Weak. A gust of wind could shatter your bones. And yet," he reached out, his gloved hand gripping my shoulder. It wasn't gentle, but it wasn't an attack. It was an anchor. He was grounding himself. "Brew your tea, Secretary Thorne," he commanded, his voice ragged with exhaustion. "If it fails to silence the noise, you will join the dregs in the dungeon." It didn't fail. That night was the first time in a decade that the villain of the story slept. And it was the night the story began to rewrite itself. 6 months passed. The transition from disposable side character to indispensable lifeline was insidious. It happened in the quiet moments between the chaos of high politics and assassination attempts. In the original novel, Cassian was a force of nature, a weapon wielded by the Emperor until he snapped. He was isolated, feared, and fundamentally unloved. The narrative described him as a man void of humanity. The narrative was a lie. I learned this on a rainy Tuesday in the ducal archives. I was sorting through correspondence, burying reports of treason that would only agitate Cassian's condition, when the door creaked open. Cassian entered, drenched. The magically reinforced glass of the windows rattled with the force of the storm outside, a storm mirrored by the turbulent mana leaking from his body. He had just returned from the northern border, a suppression mission the Emperor had forced upon him. He looked like a fallen god, his silver hair plastered to his pale forehead, his black military coat heavy with rain and the metallic scent of blood. He didn't speak. He simply walked toward me. Your Grace. I stood up, abandoning the papers. I'll call for the physicians. No? The word was a growl. He closed the distance between us in 2 long strides, collapsing into the chair I had vacated. He looked at his hands. They were stained with gore that wasn't his own. They fear me. Their fear tastes bitter. It makes the noise louder. I hesitated. The logical action was to retreat. A villain in a mana rage was a walking catastrophe. But I remembered the scene in the book, Cashin alone in this room, destroying everything in a fit of self-loathing because he felt like a monster. I took a handkerchief from my pocket, poured water from a pitcher onto it, and approached him. Give me your hands, I said softly. Cashin looked up. His eyes were blown wide, the purple irises swirling. It will stain you, Julian. I am already stained, Your Grace. I work for you. A dry, fractured laugh escaped his lips. He extended his hands. I wiped the blood away with methodical care. I cleaned the long, calloused fingers that had crushed skulls and wielded dark magic. I treated them not as weapons, but as hands. Human hands. Why? He asked, his voice barely audible over the rain. Why what? Why do you stay? You could have fled months ago. I gave you the gold. You could be halfway to the Southern Isles. I paused, holding his hand in mine. His skin was fever hot. Because the Southern Isles are boring, I lied. And because I don't think you're the villain they say you are. Cashin's hand suddenly tightened around mine, his grip bruising. He pulled me closer, forcing me to bend until our faces were inches apart. Then you are a fool, he hissed, though there was no malice in it. Only a desperate, starving intensity. I am exactly what they say. I am the wolf that will devour the sun. I am the end of this kingdom. Then I suppose I'll have to be the one to hold the leash. I retorted, the words slipping out before I could check them. The silence returned, heavy and thick. Cashin stared at me, searching for fear, searching for deceit. Finding neither, the tension drained from his shoulders. He brought my hand, the one he was still crushing, up to his face. He didn't kiss it. That would be too romantic, too soft for a man like him. Instead, he pressed his cheek against my palm, closing his eyes, inhaling deeply. It was a gesture of absolute submission and absolute possession. Don't let go, he whispered into my skin. If you let go, Julian, I will burn the world down just to find you in the ashes. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. This wasn't in the book. The villain wasn't supposed to find comfort in the side character. He wasn't supposed to look at the secretary as if he were the only source of oxygen in the room. I'm not going anywhere, Cashin, I whispered back, using his name for the first time. He didn't correct me. The turning point, the climax of our distorted narrative, arrived with the winter solstice ball. This was a pivotal event in the original novel. It was the night the heroine, Lady Alara, would debut. It was the night Cashin was supposed to be publicly humiliated by the crown prince, triggering his descent into total madness. I had spent weeks preparing for this. I had doctored the financial reports to hide Cashin's unsanctioned army. I had bribed the master of ceremonies. I had done everything a loyal shadow could do to mitigate the damage. But fate, I learned, is stubborn. The ballroom was a sea of pastel silks and hypocrisy. The air smelled of expensive perfume and rot. Cashin stood by a pillar, dressed in black velvet and silver embroidery, looking like a reaper at a wedding. He was drinking champagne, but I knew he was tracking the exits, calculating kill zones. I stood a respectful 3 paces behind him, holding his coat. Then, she arrived. Lady Alara, the protagonist. She was radiant, glowing with the holy light of the saintess. The room hushed. The crown prince, a man with a golden smile and a heart of lead, stepped forward to greet her. According to the plot, Cashin was supposed to intervene here. He was supposed to claim Alara, driven by a sudden, inexplicable lust that was actually a byproduct of his curse reacting to her holy power. I watched Cashin. His gaze shifted to Alara. His jaw tightened. The glass in his hand shattered. The curse. It was reacting. Panic, cold and sharp, spiked in my chest. If he stepped forward now, the tragedy would resume. He would become the monster everyone expected. Cashin, I whispered, stepping closer, breaking protocol. Look at me. He didn't hear me. His eyes were glazing over, the violet light pulsating. He took a step toward the center of the room. The crowd gasped, sensing the danger. The prince put a hand on his sword. I couldn't let him do it. I couldn't let him become the villain again. I did the only thing I could think of. I moved. Fast as a whip, I stepped in front of him, blocking his view of the saintess. I grabbed the lapels of his jacket and shoved him back against the pillar. The impact was audible, causing the nearest nobles to stifle screams. Julian. Cashin blinked, his focus snapping to me. The haze of the curse wavered, confused by the sudden aggression of his meek secretary. My eyes are up here, I hissed, my voice trembling with terrifying audacity. You are not looking at her. You are looking at me. Profound impertinence. The crown prince sneered, striding over. Your dog needs to be muzzled, Vane. Or perhaps put down. How dare a servant cause a scene in the presence of the saintess? The prince's guards moved forward, hands on their hilts. The script was trying to force its way back in. If Cashin defended me, he would be branded a traitor. If he didn't, I would be executed on the spot. Cashin looked at the prince, then at me. The madness in his eyes receded, replaced by a cold, razor-sharp intelligence. And something else. A dark, terrifying amusement. A dog, Cashin repeated, his voice carrying effortlessly across the silent hall. He reached out, his hand wrapping around the back of my neck. His thumb caressed the pulse point beneath my jaw. It was a possessive touch, marking me. You mistake the situation, Your Highness, Cashin said, his smile showing too many teeth. This man is not my dog. He is my handler. The court gasped. And, Cashin continued, his mana beginning to flare, darkening the enchanted chandeliers overhead. If you or your guards take one more step toward what is mine, I will demonstrate exactly why the northern tribes call me the Butcher. You threaten the crown? The prince shouted, though he took a step back. I threaten anyone who touches him, Cashin corrected calmly. He looked down at me, his eyes softening into that dangerous, obsessed adoration. Shall we leave, Julian? The air here is stale. Yes, I breathe, my legs weak. Let's go home. He didn't just walk out. He swept his cape around us, shielding me from the court's prying eyes, and escorted me out like I was the consort, not the secretary. We didn't go back to the estate. The emperor, enraged by the display at the ball, issued a warrant. The plot had derailed so violently that the rails were twisted metal. We were fugitives. We retreated to one of Cashin's safe houses, a fortress hidden deep in the Obsidian Mountains. It was cold, isolated, and safe. But the stress had taken its toll. That night, the curse hit Cashin harder than ever before. I found him in the library, thrashing on the rug, his body convulsing as waves of raw, violet magic tore through him. He was clawing at his own chest, trying to rip the pain out. Cashin! I dropped the basin of water I was carrying and fell to my knees beside him. Get out, he roared, his voice distorted, demonic. It's consuming me. Run, Julian. I'll kill you. I'll tear you apart. No, I shouted back, grabbing his wrists, pinning them to the floor with all my weight. I was weak compared to him, but he was fighting himself, holding back his own strength to keep from hurting me. I am not leaving you. It hurts, he sobbed, a sound so broken it shattered my heart. It burns. I knew the tea wouldn't work fast enough. I knew the medical lore of this world. There was only one way to stabilize a mana overload of this magnitude without a saintess. Direct mana transfer. But I had no magic. I was a normal human. Except, there was a theory. A fan theory I had read on a forum in my previous life. The body can act as a conduit if the emotional resonance is strong enough. It was a gamble. A suicidal gamble. Cashin, look at me. He couldn't. His eyes were rolled back, glowing white. I didn't think. I acted. I framed his face with my hands and crashed my lips against his. It wasn't a soft kiss. It was a collision. The moment our lips touched, a shockwave hit me. It felt like sticking a fork into a lightning storm. Pain seared through my nerves, hot and blinding. I tasted copper and ozone. I felt his magic flood into me, corrosive and wild. I screamed into his mouth, but I didn't pull away. I accepted the pain. I accepted the fire. Give it to me, I thought. Asterisk, give me your pain. You've carried it alone for too long. Asterisk, Cashin froze. His hands, which had been clawing at the floor, flew up to grip my waist. He didn't push me away. He drank me in. He anchored himself to my existence. Slowly, the violet light in the room dimmed. The convulsions stopped. The burning heat began to recede, settling into a warm, humming vibration between us. I pulled back, gasping for air, my vision swimming. Cashin was staring at me. His eyes were clear. The amethyst was calm, deep, and filled with a wonder that bordered on religious devotion. You, he rasped, touching his lips. You survived. I told you. I managed to whisper, my voice hoarse. I'm the one holding the leash. He didn't laugh this time. He moved so fast I didn't see it happen. Suddenly, I was on my back, pinned to the thick rug, Cashin hovering over me. No, he said, his voice low, intense, and utterly resolute. You are not holding the leash, Julian. You are the heart. You are the only thing keeping this beast alive. He lowered his head, resting his forehead against mine. I was supposed to destroy this world, he confessed. I wanted to. I hated them all. But now, he kissed the corner of my mouth, then the other. Now, I cannot destroy the world. Because you live in it. Is that a promise? I asked, running my fingers through his sweat-dampened silver hair. It is a vow, Cashin replied. Let the emperor come. Let the heroine play her games. Let the gods try to write their tragedy. He looked into my eyes, and I saw the reflection of a man who was no longer a side character. I saw a partner. I will rewrite the stars themselves, the villain whispered, if it means I can keep you. The war that followed was not the one the book described. It wasn't a war of destruction. It was a war of revolution. With my knowledge of the future and Cashin's overwhelming power, we didn't burn the empire, we dismantled it. We exposed the corruption of the temple, we outmaneuvered the crown prince, and we revealed the truth of the dragon's curse to the people. I was no longer the disposable secretary. I was the Grand Duke's consort, the shadow behind the throne of the North. They called Cashin the Mad Wolf, but they called me the Wolf's Handler. Years later, we stood on the balcony of the restored ducal palace, overlooking a city that was thriving, not burning. The winter snow was falling softly. Cashin wrapped his arms around me from behind, pulling me into the warmth of his heavy cloak. He rested his chin on my shoulder, his presence a constant, heavy comfort. What are you thinking about? He asked. The ending, I said honestly. The way the story was supposed to end. A tragedy? Yes. You were supposed to die alone in the snow. Cashin tightened his hold on me, his lips brushing against my neck. A poorly written story, he murmured. I prefer this version. Which version is that? He turned me around, his amethyst eyes glowing with that familiar, possessive love that had once terrified me and now sustained me. The one, he said, where the villain gets the boy, and the boy gets the world. And as he kissed me under the falling snow, defying destiny and plot alike, I knew he was right. I was just a disposable side character, yet I fell in love with the tragic villain. And that is how the viper tamed the wolf. If you enjoyed seeing Julian take control and rewrite destiny, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments, would you save a villain destined to destroy the world, or would you let fate take its course? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then,